What is up, everybody? Sven Diesel here. We're going to be tying up the Chernobyl ant. This is a pattern that originated in the green and fishes real well, whether you're fishing it solo or with a dropper. It catches fish. I like these stealth hooks. This is the D series in a size 8, and I usually fish these sometimes in Utah down to a 2, but usually 6s and 8s. And we're going to be using the Semperfli. This is their classic wax thread in red. And I'm going to go ahead and start my thread with a little bit of space, maybe a hook eye space before, in between where we started our thread and the hook eye. That way we have a little bit of room later to finish the fly. And then I'm just going to hold this tag end towards me so that each consecutive wrap kind of sucks right into the other. And we're just laying down some nice thread here that we will be adding a little bit of super glue later to make it just that much more durable. So when we get back here to the bend, just continue down into the bend a little bit. I'm going to add a little red hot spot, kind of a tag, and so go down about 10 or 15 wraps, and then we'll just come work our way back up to the top of the bend. And be careful of that hook point. You don't want to snag your thread on there, otherwise you might have to start with a new bobbin. So we'll go ahead and snip off our tag end, and then I will advance my thread just a little bit up, and then we're going to be laying down a peacock underbody for this fly to add a little bit of that shimmer, and the fish really love the peacock body on this, I think, on the underbody. And these are the long herl from Nature Spirit. Pretty good stuff. I really like the length, so I'll cut out about 3, sometimes I do 3 or 4 fibers. I'll trim the end to give me a nice tie-in point, and then I'll advance my thread up roughly to where we started our thread. I'll tie in the even butt ends of those and just work my way down the shank of the hook now with some crisscrossing wraps, and that way this will give a little bit of a foundation for the foam that we're going to be adding. And then I want to do about, we're going to make this into sections, and so from where I ended my tag end to about here, where the point is, between the point and the barb, I'm going to start my first section of the tail, but I'm going to lay down a little bit of this peacock right here at the rear, and it kind of helps stabilize the foam so it doesn't twist as much. Also, the glue will help you with that, and then I'll just wrap my peacock with touching wraps up to the point that my thread was, and I'll go ahead and tie it off. And then if you have a hair clip or a paper clip handy or a little piece of wire, I want to get these long peacock herls, because it is a fragile material. I want to just get it out of my way so I'm not going to be knocking it or accidentally breaking it at this point. So for the body, we're going to be using foam. These are the Chernobyl cutters from River Roads Creation. It comes in a few different sizes. It gives you the hook range. So this is a 6 to 8, and it's pretty sharp. So make sure you don't touch this other end. Use the mats they recommend. And for this, I'm just using a 2mm black foam. Black and peacock seem to be a good color combination for me here locally, and I'm going to cut out 2 of those pieces. And then also I'm going to cut out a hotspot color, and this is in the yellow in the smaller cutter, the 10 to 12, and that'll make sense a little bit later. So I'm going to stack these 2mm black foam on top of each other, and you could use a 4mm, but I like to segment the body, and so I recommend using 2mm. And we're going to start with a not so tight wrap on the first one, then get a little tighter as we progress, making sure it's on the top of the shank. And then we are going to add our rubber legs. These are the small rubber legs. You can use the medium. I like the small a little bit better. It gives a little bit more movement. It is a rubber leg, so these are not going to last forever like a silicone leg, but I like how durable these are, and I also like the way they help sit on the top and present the legs of this fly. So I'm going to pierce that, not pierce it, but tie it in half around my thread and make sure that these rubber legs are right there in between the 2 layers of the 2mm foam. And then I will just do about 3 or 4 wraps. They're not super tight. I don't want to cut the foam, but you want to hold them in place, and I'll just inspect to make sure they're where I like it. And then I'll advance my thread on the underbody here, pulling back the foam, give a couple wraps right there to secure the wraps we did over the foam and the legs. And then I'm going to proceed up, and I'm not doing equal segments. I like to go progressively smaller as I make my way up towards the eye of the hook. And so we're going to go about, I don't know how far that is, but 3/16 of an inch, and then I'm going to pull this peacock very, very carefully, and I'm going to wrap it up and under that first layer of foam, and then I will palmer this while I'm holding back the 2 layers of foam up to where my thread is, and we'll repeat the same process we did before. I'll just try and get as many wraps as I can touching. I want a little bit of that shimmer, that shine, and then I'll go ahead and tie that off, securing it in place. It's going to be a little bit difficult with your rubber legs. If you want, you can tie those back using some wire. I'm just going to let them kind of dangle and adjust them as we go. And then for this now, we're going to proceed forward. So I'm going to have this peacock going off the front. Just a reminder again, make sure that you are careful with that. They do break. I've found that this particular brand seems to be a little bit better than some I've bought in the past. So we'll go ahead and secure this bottom layer, and this is why you can't use a 4mm foam. We're segmenting the underbody, and so we'll do about 3 wraps there, and then I'll pull back, advance my thread up a little bit shorter of this distance here. Like I said, I'm progressively getting these segments smaller. Add a little bit of glue. This will help with the durability of the peacock, and I'll go ahead and wrap that around. Same thing. Touching wraps to the best of your ability. If you notice that your ends are breaking, you could tie in another section at this point, but I like this length of the peacock herl from them so that I can just complete the whole fly. Sometimes I get 2, maybe 3 flies out of these groups due to the length, depending on what size I'm tying. So we'll go ahead and tie that off. Just do a wrap up and over. Make sure your legs are out of the way and try not to get glue on them. And then we will pull down this 1 layer of 2mm foam, go up and over, and I'm kind of pinching it around that peacock, and then we'll do about 3-4 wraps, get our peacock curl ends out of the way, and we are about ready to finish this fly. So we are here towards the eye. This is where you want to make sure you save a little bit of space. I'm going to advance my thread up to the eye and then back it up just a little bit. That's going to be where we're going to whip finish. And then I've had enough glue on here already, so I'm just going to wrap this around rather than risk getting some glue in the eye. And we'll do about 4 wraps, and we'll go ahead and tie that off. And we are now done with the peacock. We have a nice underbody and some nice shimmer and shine that's going to be super attractive. I don't know any trout that doesn't like peacock in the color. It's a super effective, especially in the natural. So we'll take the the other piece, the top 2mm foam, and come up and over, making sure to catch the eye on our under wraps. And we'll do about 4 wraps here, getting tighter as we go. And we have a very, very fishy fly. The last thing we got to do, and this is why I use the hot spot in a smaller so that we don't have to do too much trimming with it. I'm just going to line it up and have it be a little bit shorter than our top piece, and I'll tie it with about 3 wraps, and then we're going to add our legs and we're finished. So we're about done. Same process, just fold your leg around the thread and then use your thread to guide it into place between those 2 layers of the black foam. And then I'll make sure you get 2 wraps and kind of make sure it's in the place you want it. You can wiggle these all you want until you do about 5-6 wraps, and by then they should be a little bit secure. But we'll do the same process. Since we have 2 wraps on the other side, I'm just going to secure this leg on this side and come up and over and proceed to just kind of work my way very carefully through those legs, being careful not to trap one improperly. And then we'll do about 5 wraps here to kind of build that a little bit of a bump there so that foam sits up. I like to sometimes skate these, and this can be a little bit tricky, pulling everything back and trying to use a whip finish tool, but it is possible with a little bit of practice. Just pull those legs back, get them out of the way, and then have the bobbin resting in your left hand, and then go ahead and do your whip finish, primarily using your right hand to twist and turn. So I'm going to do a double 3-turn whip finish. And like I said, you got to keep those legs back. It's not something that is the easiest, but once you do it a few times, you can see it's manageable and it's doable. And then when you pull your thread up to finish that whip finish, just don't pull out or trap a leg in there. Last step, I kind of trim this like I do my Amy's ants, and I'm going to just kind of create a point. This is mainly for visibility. Yellow is a color that works really well for me personally. And then I'm going to trim these legs to length a little bit longer than I usually like them. That way I tend to under trim them. You can always trim them shorter later, but you can't add longer legs later. So I'll make sure those are in place. We've already applied enough glue to this. This is the finished fly. You can tie it in a bunch of different colors. I really like using the Peacock herl as the underbody. I've done ice dub. I've done rough dubbing. The possibilities and color combinations are pretty much endless. I fish this with a floating line and in the summer months, and sometimes I add a dropper as well. So thanks for watching, and make sure to click that subscribe button.